Hello, this is Cash Mirage, the $1 million prayer scam. Picture this: a charming priest in a small town, beloved by everyone, collecting donations for God's house. Except God never got the house. The priest got a mansion instead. Father Webb had the kind of smile that could melt glaciers and convince atheists to pray. For 3 years, he stood at the pulpit of St. Catherine's tiny wooden church, passionately describing his divine vision. A magnificent new church, stained glass windows that would make angels weep. A bell tower reaching toward heaven itself. God spoke to me, he would whisper, his voice trembling with emotion. He showed me a sanctuary so beautiful, so pure, that sinners would fall to their knees just walking through its doors. The congregation hung on every word. Mrs. Henderson, the baker's widow, donated her late husband's life insurance money. The Johnson family sold their boat. Even little Timmy brought his piggy bank savings of $43.17. Every Sunday, the collection plates grew heavier. Every month, Father Webb's speeches became more elaborate. He showed architectural drawings, he brought soil samples. He even had a groundbreaking ceremony where the entire town showed up with golden shovels. The foundation will be poured next month, he announced, tears streaming down his face. God's house is finally coming home. But something strange was happening on the other side of town. A massive construction project had begun on Millionaire's Row. Workers were building what looked like a palace. Italian marble. Olympic-sized swimming pool. A wine cellar that could stock a small country. Who's building that monstrosity, farm people wondered. The answer would shatter their faith forever. One rainy Tuesday morning, Mrs. Henderson was driving past the construction site when she saw him. Father Webb. Not in his humble priest robes, but in an expensive suit, directing workers like he owned the place. Because he did, the revelation hit the town like a nuclear bomb. For 3 years, Father Webb had been living a double life. By day, he was their humble servant of God. By night, he was shopping for chandeliers that cost more than most people's cars. The phantom church existed only in blueprints he'd drawn himself. The architectural drawings were fake. The soil samples came from his backyard. Even the groundbreaking ceremony had been theater. They dug a hole and filled it back up the next day. $1.2 million. That's how much the faithful had donated. Every penny went into Father Webb's personal paradise. But here's where the story gets truly twisted. When confronted by his devastated congregation, Father Webb didn't run. He didn't apologize. Instead, he stood in front of his mansion and declared, "God works in mysterious ways. Perhaps he wanted me to have this house so I could better serve his people." The audacity was breathtaking. The man had stolen their dreams, their savings, their trust, and he was still preaching. Mrs. Henderson later told reporters, "I gave him my husband's memory. I thought I was building something beautiful for God. Instead, I built a swimming pool for a snake." The trial became a media circus. Father Webb represented himself, claiming divine inspiration for every purchase. The marble bathroom, for purification rituals. The home theater, for studying religious films. The wine cellar. Jesus turned water into wine, didn't he? The jury wasn't buying his salvation sales pitch. 25 years in prison. Full restitution ordered, though most of the money had already been spent on his lavish lifestyle. But the story doesn't end with justice served. The real tragedy wasn't the stolen money, it was the stolen faith. Half the congregation never attended church again. Children who once sang in the choir grew up questioning every religious figure they met. He didn't just steal our money, reflected Timmy, now a grown man. He stole our ability to trust. Every time I see a collection plate, I wonder, is this for God or for someone's swimming pool? The phantom church was eventually built, but not where anyone expected. A group of neighboring towns, horrified by the scandal, pooled resources and constructed a beautiful interfaith center. They called it the Church of Second Chances. Above the entrance, they carved a simple message: trust, but verify. Father Webb was released early for good behavior. He now works at a gas station in Nevada, no longer allowed to handle money or preach to congregations. Sometimes, customers recognize his voice from the news coverage. His mansion was sold at auction. The new owners turned it into a halfway house for former prisoners trying to rebuild their lives. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. The swimming pool is now used for baptisms. This story reminds us that the most dangerous thieves aren't the ones who break into our homes. They're the ones we invite into our hearts. They wear the faces we trust most: teachers, leaders, spiritual guides. But here's what Father Webb couldn't steal, no matter how hard he tried: the human capacity for hope. The people of that small town learned to be more careful with their trust, but they never stopped believing in something bigger than themselves. They just started building it with their own hands instead of blind faith. Sometimes the greatest churches aren't made of marble and stained glass. They're made of communities that choose to trust again, despite being betrayed. They're built one careful brick at a time, with eyes wide open and hearts still willing to hope. The phantom church taught them the most valuable lesson of all. True faith doesn't require a building. It just requires people brave enough to keep believing in each other. If you enjoyed this video, please support the channel and like, share, and subscribe. Please write a comment what you think about this video.